We begin tonight with gunfire in Seattle at the same location where Mayor Katie Wilson was holding an event. Take a look. Our photographer found bullet holes in a door of the Yesler Community Center.
You see all these shootings every day throughout Seattle, but they're not really holding anybody accountable.
We live in a lawless community where really there is no order.
People in that community who are concerned that there's been rising gun violence and that there should be more surveillance cameras and that kind of thing. This is an issue that you've weighed in on before. Does your perspective change at all based on what you went through Tuesday night?
Not really.
A shooting happened 50 yards from the Seattle's mayor, and a reporter tried to ask her about it, and her own staff cut off the interview on camera. And when she finally answered, her concern wasn't about people getting shot or the violence that's happening. She was concerned about ICE. Let's get into it. So before we get into the clips, let me give you a full context of what you're about to see. So Katie Wilson, we've been talking about her on this channel for the last couple of weeks, actually a couple of months to be honest, but Katie Wilson, Seattle's self-described socialist mayor, 4 months into the job, and she held a community event. And while she was on the property, gunshots ran out, bullets hit the building. She was roughly 50 yards away. No one was injured, but the community was telling reporters for months that gun violence in this neighborhood is already normalized. This was not a surprise to them. This is just more of a confirmation of what's going on. So a reporter from the news, Chris Daniels, he has been trying to get answers from Wilson for weeks. Finally gets her in front of the camera, and then what happens? Her staff physically interrupts the interview. Twice, and the reporter called it out live on air. Now you're gonna watch this and you're gonna realize it's not just about bad optics. It is a window into exactly how this mayor governs and why Seattle is in the shape that it's in.
People in that community who are concerned that there's been rising gun violence and that there should be more surveillance cameras and that kind of thing. That's obviously been an issue that you weighed in on. Does that change it? Does that change your perspective at all?
Let's keep it on. Yeah, let's keep it on the topic of this event. Thanks.
But does that change your perspective at all on the issue of surveillance cameras based on what you went through on Tuesday?
So we, yeah.
Appreciate it, but let's keep it on topic, okay?
She's about to answer the question, though. Okay. I mean, it looks worse when you jump in like that.
I'm sorry, I specifically said to keep it on topic.
But I also have to ask the questions that people want to have answered.
Maybe we can set up a different time for that. Maybe we can set up with Sage.
Yeah, we'll talk to Sage.
Well, Sage hasn't returned phone calls all week, so.
It's been a busy week.
Now, the reporter asked the mayor of Seattle a very direct question. It was about the gun violence, about surveillance cameras, about public safety. And her own press person physically stepped in to shut it down on camera while the mayor was in mid-breath getting ready to provide whatever answer she had. And the reporter asked exactly what every person watching this clip is probably thinking. He's right. It does look worse because now instead of whatever answer Wilson was going to give, which might have been a decent answer, probably not, might have been something that the community needed to hear. All anyone sees is a mayor whose team is afraid of what comes out of her mouth when she's not scripted. That is not a communications problem. That is a governing problem. And let's talk about Sage for a second. The reporter mentions Wilson's communication contact. Sage has not returned phone calls all week. All week. The mayor of a major American city, 4 months into the job, in the middle of gun violence crisis, with Starbucks exits dominating a news cycle, and her press office is going dark with the local news team trying to cover her. Not a really good idea. Now, we talked about this in the previous video, but I said it pretty briefly, that there was a 98% poll of Seattle viewers saying that their local leaders were not transparent. This clip explains exactly why. This is transparency, or the absence of it. You're getting caught on television, on camera, by a reporter who has the presence of mind to name what was happening in real time. This is a mayor that has not figured out that managing the press is not the same thing as governing a city. Real quick, 84.5% of you guys watching this video right now are not subscribed. If you made it this far and you already know what we're doing here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like, hype, all those things. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and it keeps the channel growing and growing. Appreciate all your support. Now let's get back into it.
I wouldn't be an excellent reporter if I didn't ask you. It's been an eventful week, and I think people are concerned about you. How do you feel after Tuesday, after what happened, what transpired?
I'm doing great. You know, got a great team supporting me, and I'll just say, you know, we don't have any indication that that shooting was targeted or anything like that. So I think it's a reminder of how much work we have to do as a city on gun violence, but I'm doing fine.
Become the norm. I spoke to people who live in this neighborhood who tell me it already is.
I don't know who she's lying to. Everybody sees it in the city. It's just a normal thing around here.
Heard him a few times, and I've been here since February, so I could say I've heard him over 5 times.
You see all these shootings every day throughout Seattle, but they're not really holding anybody accountable.
We live in a lawless community where really there is no order. There's no structure in law anymore. There's no respect for authority, and it's just creating death and darkness.
I'm doing fine. That's her answer. A shooting happens 50 yards from her body. Bullets hit the building where she was holding a community event. Families were there. Children were there. And a reporter who said to her face, "I think people are concerned about you," asked how she was doing. Her response is, "I'm doing fine. I have a great team supporting me." Now, I want to be fair here. She's allowed to say that. Sure, she's allowed to say that she's okay. She's allowed to project calm. It keeps people from not flipping out when the leader's not flipping out. But here's what's missing from an answer. Any acknowledgement of the people who live in this neighborhood, whom this was a Tuesday. This wasn't a traumatic one-time event. The resident in that clip, the one who said he's been here since February and he has already heard gunshots more than 5 times, I don't think that man is doing fine. The woman who said that we live in a lawless community where there's no order, I don't think she's doing fine. And this is the disconnect between you saying, "I am fine, I have a great team behind me," and the people 50 yards away live with this every single day. That is the gap in this story. Because here's what a mayor who understands the weight of the moment would have said. She would have said, "This neighborhood has been telling me this for months, and tonight it landed at my front door, and I hear you, and we're going to change our approach." That's what accountability looks like. That's what a solid leader looks like. But what we got instead was the complete opposite, where there's more questions than we have answers.
This is an issue that you've weighed in on before. Does your perspective change at all based on what you went through Tuesday night?
Not really. I mean, I believe that CCTV cameras have an important role to play in our public safety system, and we also have to be very careful to make sure that our data storage, security, sharing practices don't make that system vulnerable to misuse and abuse, whether that's by federal immigration enforcement or by other bad actors. And so for that reason, that is why we are doing a data and privacy audit before we move forward with expanding CCTV surveillance in the city.
We heard Mayor Wilson indicate the shooting did not change her opinion. Does that give us any sort of insight into the status of the expansion of the CCTV program?
Well, at this point, the answer is no. There has been a pilot program installed by the city, 62 closed-circuit television cameras that feed into the real-time crime center. She has put a pause on any sort of expansion of that program. There are cameras set to be installed in the stadium district that she says will only be mobilized if there is an imminent threat during the World Cup.
Not really. That's her answer. A shooting 50 yards from her. Community members have been begging for more cameras for months. A Chinatown petition that got over 1,000 signatures asking for expanded surveillance. Her own police department put out data showing officers are 3 times likely to arrest an offender when they're working with the real-time crime center camera analysis. 3 times. And her answer, does this change your perception at all? She says not really. And then, this is the part where I need you to really understand, where she pivots immediately to ICE. She doesn't say, "I'm weighing the trade-offs carefully." Her first instinct when asked about cameras and gun violence is to talk about the federal immigration enforcement assessing the footage. There's a man in the neighborhood who says he heard gunshots 5 times since February. There are families whose children who were at that event when the bullets hit that building. And the mayor's primary concern about putting up more cameras to protect them is whether ICE might access the footage. This is ridiculous. Yes, you want to worry about data privacy. Yes, it's a real issue. I'm not going to dismiss that. But you can have cameras and data sharing restrictions. Every major city in America has figured this out. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, they have tons of cameras all over the place. And they have some private policies. These things can coexist. The reason Katie Wilson hasn't even threaded that needle is not because it's impossible. It's because her political coalition, the same activists that got her elected, would view any camera expansion as a complete betrayal. She is more afraid of her base than she is of the bullets hitting the building that she was standing in. Mind you, that many people were standing around, including children.
The states have been seeing a wealth exodus for years, but their leaders are still doubling down on taxes. Washington state is set to impose a 10% tax on millionaires, and Seattle's Socialist mayor, Katie Wilson, is looking at even more progressive proposals to separate residents from their money.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown, and if, you know, the ones that leave, like, bye.
So if you torture them enough, eventually they will leave, Marcus, whether you're a billionaire or a business owner. I think the flippant nature in which Wilson is saying, you know, they're not going to leave, like almost like this is some big joke or some big game. It's really not.
Now, let's zoom out for a second, because everything we've seen in this video where the staff is cutting off questions, the ice pivot, the not really concerned or not changing my mind on camera, the shooting 50 yards from the podium, it all has the same root cause. And it's not incompetence. Well, you can say a little bit about that, but it's more of a structural problem that was baked in before she even took office. Katie Wilson was elected by a coalition of union organizers, progressive activists, DSA members, the ideological true believers who expected a revolution. Her former campaign field director is now petitioning against her camera policy. Many of her former campaign volunteers showed up to protest her on her 100th day in office. One of them looked her communications relations manager in the eye and said, "I voted for her and I'm pissed off." So this is the trap that she's in. She cannot answer hard questions about Starbucks because she called for the boycott. She cannot expand cameras because her base called it a surveillance state. She cannot court millionaires and corporations because she told them buy on camera. She built her entire political identity around opposing the very tools that she needs to govern. And this ideology has become a cage for her. The Fox business analyst said it plainly. This is not a joke. This is not a game. The people in that neighborhood where the shooting happened don't have the luxury of treating it like a game. The small business owner who got broken into multiple times last year doesn't have the luxury to treat this like this was a game. But the mayor who told the millionaires bye, paused for the cameras, shutting down interviews, and now issuing press statements about strong relationships with Starbucks, she's been treating this like a game, and Seattle is paying the price.
However, for people like Gabriel Gonzalez and Gladys Barrias, who live where the shooting happened, they say they see a simple place to start fixing this problem.
It's kind of ridiculous.
That is your verdict. Not from a think tank. This is not from a political opponent. From the people who live there, who were there that night the bullets hit the building, who have been there every single night before and every night since. This is just a normal thing around here. Gun violence in the neighborhood where the mayor was just holding a community event about investing in children and families. That's normal to them. Not exceptional, not shocking, normal. And the residents are not confused about why. They say it directly. No one is holding anybody accountable. There is no order. There is no structure. Katie Wilson has been the mayor for 4 months. In those 4 months, she has called for a Starbucks boycott that sent 2,000 jobs to Nashville. She told millionaires buy while her city needs those tax dollars to fund the very services that she promised. Paused camera expansion because ICE concerns, while 700 people a year died from fentanyl in King County. Had her staff cut off a press conference on live television and issue a statement about strong partnerships with a company that she publicly boycotted 5 months ago. This is only 4 months. And the people of Seattle, those are the ones who voted for her, who organized for her, who showed up on her 100th day to protest her, are now looking at the record and saying, is this what we elected? The answer, based on what we've seen, is yes. This is exactly what they elected. The problem is, it's also what they warned themselves about and chose anyway. And what I will say about this, similar to New York City, it's going to be a very long 4 years. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Appreciate all of your support. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.